Welcome everyone. Today we have our another new episode. This is our 566 episode, and today we have our very famous things, and this is debate. We have our world famous debaters, uh, Professor Fred Philip. He will be the Prime Minister for today's Parliament, and most importantly, we have professional politician. Long time he contribute for politics, Dr. Talib. He will be minister for today's parliament. He will be ICT minister for today's parliament with Professor Fred Philip. We have our opposition side, very strong opposition side. Professor David Smith, he will be opposition leader of this parliament and deputy leader from the opposition side. Very famous speaker. She is very famous speaker. We do a lot of research on her speech, and it's very interesting. So hopefully our audience will enjoy today's debate. So I would like to give chance Professor Fred Philip.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Sharif, for always making sure to include some Tando fellows in your video casts. It's a great partnership between WTEF and Tando. Yes, on balance, I believe that digital technologies do increase our productivity, but there are lots of buts and ifs and caveats. I'd like to start by talking about some definitions and make it clear that productivity and efficiency are two different things. We usually think of efficiency as doing things right, and yet we all know some people who are very, very good, very, very efficient at doing things like maintaining paper files or repairing home movie projectors and videotape players. In other words, they're extremely efficient at doing things that don't really need to be done. So efficiency is doing things right, but productivity is doing the right things right. Okay, so how do we know what's the right things? And that has to do with strategy and purpose, and also, of course, morals and ethics. So those are four things: strategy, purpose, morals, and ethics that help us to decide what are the right things. So there's absolutely no doubt that digital technologies enable us to do the wrong things much, much faster. Just look at the drivel that comes through the social media. I hope that I can, as a writer and editor and scholar, that I can turn out good things faster. And I hope that I'm not turning out drivel faster. Okay, because the mission and strategy of an academic institution is pretty clear, but we do things with digital tech that are very anti-productive. Let me give you an example. I bought an expensive computer on a grant, and the rules are that it has to be set up by the IT department of the university. The IT department doesn't know the difference between security and productivity. So they absolutely crippled that expensive computer in the name of data security. And if I had known they were going to do that, of course, I would have bought a cheaper computer. So there's a example of organizational lack of strategic alignment that reduces productivity in the digital world. Okay, now, since we have word processors and spreadsheets and so on, see, these are the digital technologies that replace, I'm inadvertently talking for the wrong side here, but these are the digital technologies that replace clerical tasks. Okay, so the university wants to save money. They can't fire professors because we're tenured. but they can fire clerical workers, secretaries, admins, and so forth. So that means that when it comes to doing calculations, making phone calls, making photocopies, the professors, who are paid much more than the clerical workers, end up standing in front of the photocopying machine. And that, given what they're paid, is not a what we are paid is not a productive use of our time. So, uh, through Gilbert level paradoxes like this, yeah, the digital technologies can make our organizations less productive. Um, in our leisure time, what's our mission and strategy there? We want to enjoy our relaxation. Um, Digital TV. Oh my gosh. It used to be that you would, there were only three controls on a television: on, off, volume, change the channel. Okay, now we have two or three remote controls, each with dozens of buttons. HDM1, HDM2, need to connect it to the internet. You can't turn on the TV, you have to boot up the TV. Is this really advancing our leisure strategy or not? We have access to much more channels and movies, so maybe it enhances our leisure mission, and maybe it doesn't. When we drive our cars, our mission is to get to the destination safely. Okay. It's very hot. We're having a heat wave here in New Mexico. I've had air conditioning on my last couple of cars. On my old car, there was a mechanical button for the air conditioning, on, off. Now, in the newer car, there's the flat panel screen in the car, in the dashboard, and you have to rotate a dial to get to the climate control screen, and then move a cursor to get to the air conditioning on, off, and it distracts your attention from the driver's attention from the road. And I really have to wonder whether that contributes to the productivity of our transportation mission in terms of safely getting to the destination or not. Um, yeah, in a sense, we all have this yearning for the retro yearning, I call it, for analog world. We collect music on vinyl discs, right? We curse our automobile that has a fuel injector, because if the if the fuel feed is off, we have to take it to a repair that has a sophisticated computer system that can plug into that electronic fuel injector. And we really, really miss the old carburetor that you could stick your fingers into the carburetor, the mechanical device, and adjust the fuel, air and fuel mix. And yet, we have multiple constituencies in that situation. Okay, I want to be productive in keeping my car in good repair, so I yearn in my memory for that carburetor. Society at large wants more efficient vehicles with less emissions. And of course, we achieve that with the fuel injector, not with the carburetor. So whose productivity are we talking about? We have to be careful to define productivity and to balance different people's ideas of doing what constitutes doing the right thing right. Um, okay, just a couple more examples before I close my mic. We have search engines, and if we're doing research, we can search a huge number of documents that fit our search criteria. But what's the trade-off there? We miss serendipity. We miss going to the library and looking for the journal that has the paper we're looking for, and then finding another article in the same journal, and we think, oh, isn't that interesting? You know, that never would have come to my attention had I done a digital search. Or the next book on the library shelf that takes you in new, highly productive research directions that you would not have achieved with a search on Google Scholar. And of course, the biggest question that we have about the productivity of digital tech is artificial intelligence. Is it going to wipe out jobs? Uh, you know, whose definition of productivity is artificial intelligence going to fulfill? Yeah, I won't try to answer that question. I just thought it might be of service to ask that question, and I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thank you, our Honorable Prime Minister for today's Parliament. Now I request our opposition leader of the Parliament, Professor David Smith.
Well, Prime Minister, other delegates of the Congress, and actually our constituencies that are out there. You know, the topic of whether the smart tools and the technology make us productive more is a very important one. As you can see, our Prime Minister does a great job as a politician of taking both sides of an issue like this. And thank you so much for your help with staging this one and bringing the right proposition. And even what we see with what the Prime Minister has presented today, you can tell that he is not necessarily wedded today to how the world has changed to be using digital tools, using digitalization, instant communication, connectivity anywhere by having professors stand in front of photocopiers. I'm amazed as we walk through most offices here in the Parliament and most businesses here in our nation, they have foregone photocopiers as a remnant of the past age, and they fully embrace the digital age that lets our country be a contributor on the world stage. Because any business that starts today and puts up a web page, they're global from the start. So we can see that the current administration is one that is looking out the rearview window and not outside the front windshield as we look towards the future. Uh, and as we look at the technology, though, part of the premise is that is technology all that good? Are these digital tools all that good as we look at the future? Now, let's just think about, we're now sitting in front of our monitors for hours and hours and hours. And we're surrounded by distractions. You know, we can be trying to focus on writing something, and all of a sudden our email goes off, our instant messaging goes off, our Slack channels go off, our Discord channels go off, and all of these other things drawing our attention. Oh, and the meeting requests for the Zoom conferences come in. The meeting requests that we have to do remote webinars as part of the lobbyists that interact with our legislature come in. So how do we focus? How do we handle these distractions that are there? I can give you an example. I am going to be taking a vacation in a couple of weeks. And when I arrive in the Dominican Republic, I'm going to take my smartphone and put it for a lot of the time in the safe deposit box in my room. And I'm not for sure I'm going to even take my notebook and connect it to the Wi-Fi there. You know, there's one of the things that time and time again scientific studies have shown is that there's a need to detach today, and that there's the need to begin to put ourselves in a place that we can look back at ourselves and do things. Now, let's just think about what we've seen in technology in our country. You know, we see scammers of all kinds approach to steal our personal data. They want to use our credit cards, open bank accounts. You know, this risk of being a victim online really increases. And And I'm not even getting into personal privacy there. Just think about all these fake friends requests we get. And people are making fake IDs on social media. They're doing the same, even going into our traditional systems. And God, how easy is it to get hacked today? And important files are easily taken by hackers. Uh, as you've heard me say in the past, there is no such thing as perfect security. And we need to understand that. Why some of the other things? The data security we've seen with the war in the Ukraine, that cyber attacks, digital security are very, very important. And there's many disadvantages of the communications tools. They're not safe. Viruses, people can do all these harmful things, and we see that going. But also, let's now go to the other side of it. There is emerging scientific evidence indicates that frequent digital technology use has a significant impact on brain functions and behavior. Potential harmful effects of extensive screen time in technology include heightened attention deficit syndrome, impaired emotional and social intelligence, technology addiction, social isolation, impaired brain development, and disrupted sleep. So, God, let's just begin to look at them. Are there benefits? Yes. But there's also all these negative benefits that can take away from it. And, are we more productive? We are at some times, but also what at what cost? Sitting in front of a screen for hours and hours on day, particularly post COVID, and during COVID, where we worked from home. What was missing there? What was damaged during that time when we were in front of our digital tools? We damaged our relationships. We damaged our social emotional learning. We damaged the corporate culture that takes place in the environment. Well, so we're using the tools to be more productive, but we're missing the concept of humanity. We're missing the concept of what can we do to protect our health. And other members of the parliament in our constituencies that are listening, do understand that in everything there's good and bad. But on the other hand, understand that we have to use it in moderation. There is still times like the debate we're doing today where the human is important. Using our knowledge, using our synthesis capability. I can use the AI that the Prime Minister talked about. I can use machine learning. I can use natural language processing, and I can use search tools to be global. But at what cost for our country if we use it too much? Where do we place our citizens, our nation, our government, and our business community in a way where it gives us the advantages and keeps what is unique to us, as opposed to becoming just another digit in the binary code of the digital tools? So, Sharif, thank you for letting the opposition state our position. And Prime Minister, thank you so much for agreeing with at least 75% of our arguments. So thank you.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Can you hear me? Yes.
I
Yes, we
can.
can.
Yes. Now I request very experienced politicians. I think in Parliament he did lot of debate in UN and everywhere, and hopefully I can learn a lot of things about today's debate from Dr. Talib. So now I request our honorable speaker from government side, Dr. Talib Rafael.
Thank you. I want to agree with David that it's the first time I see the government and the opposition coinciding in this thing. Of course, the government said this from a nostalgic perspective. Fred, our Prime Minister, approached this from a nostalgic approach. He said that we miss the old days, more or less, while David was talking about the actual damages that can happen. Now, I don't believe either of them is right, to be honest. I think we should all go into technology and embrace it to the maximum. We can't escape it, really. I know there are disadvantages, of course, but any limits on this disadvantage? There was a disadvantage in every technological move that human history has produced. And this is just another phase. I think that we need to embrace it to the maximum and be better at it. I don't think that it's anything wrong about you as a university professor making some photocopies at the machine. You don't have to do this, but if you do it, it's okay. And I don't think, friend David, it's anything wrong about trying to play with our emotions. I think that the new generation is approaching this thing in a different way. We need to understand that. We can't just keep talking about it as old-timers and old people, which we are. We have to embrace the new technology. It makes us more productive for sure. That's what I think. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Now I request our opposition deputy leader of the parliament, Madam Annie.
Thank you, Sharif. And thank you, Prime Minister and Opposition Leader. So, so far, I've heard technology being discussed mostly as a quantity instead of as a quality. It's being discussed as a single object, a single thing. But technology is a tool. It's a tool that we can solve our existing problems, or we can enhance the ones we have, or we can create new ones. In many ways, when we're looking at digital technology, it's very good at reflecting back to us what we have problems with. It's a mirror in front of us that shows us who we really are in many ways. I want to bring your attention to a bot a few years ago that Microsoft launched, and it became like a little Twitter. It had its own little tweet account where people would actually train that bot to become profane, racist, bigoted, and all kind of things. And we tend to think that, oh, that is what artificial intelligence is. It's bad. We train it. It becomes this bad thing. But it's really, again, it's the mirror. This is us. This is our human inclination. So again, I want to bring the attention to technology as something that could be, not necessarily only something that is. Again, I want to talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence because I think it's a very misunderstood concept. So artificial intelligence, again, is not a thing. It's not a noun. It's a methodology. It's a way of, it's not even a full consensus of what it really is, because some people think of artificial intelligence as something that aspires to be close to the human mind. Others are okay with the definition that there are certain parts that can be considered intelligent that these machines can do better than us. Most of the time when we talk about artificial intelligence, we talk about machine learning. So they're using very sophisticated statistical tools and mathematics to make decision and optimize decision making in a way that humans simply cannot. Because as humans, we have cognitive biases. We are not able to process all of that information. So that then the argument goes, yes, but it's all of that training data that we give to these machines. You maybe heard the concept garbage in, garbage out. Again, that data comes from people. So it's very often that we lay the blame on something that is different from ourselves, on the machine. We feel like if we could just leverage all the guilt to the machine, then we are the good ones. We are the ones that can make things better. And we have proven through a long history of human evolution that we're actually pretty bad. We are actually at the cusp of destroying our planet. We've kind of shown that it doesn't help that we know how to use a paper copier in the hallway, because our problems now are so much larger than what they once were. I'll give you another example. So social media was brought up as a distractor. We also heard about serendipity as some people might call that a distractor. But so again, it's the definitions. If you look at younger generations today, they're battling a little bit with technology addiction, but they're also having a tool that allows them to have those serendipitous moments, to connect with people in many, many different parts of the world, and realize that if you are in Canada or Brazil or in Malaysia or in Norway, if you have been posited the possibility that we are standing in front of these unsurmountable seemingly problems like existential threats to humanity, they're going to feel the same way. And guess what? They're going to go out there on the streets and they're going to march. And they're going to be able to do that and organize that because they have these tools. That's what they have. That's what they could communicate with. So you hear a lot of, oh yeah, but it's so bad for their mental health, and we should feel, we should distract our kids from the technology itself. We should, keep them away from these networks. Well, most of the justification for that is what we call, they've been looking at two curves. They've been looking at the last 10 years. We've seen two trends. Digital technology has gone up, and also mental health problems have gone up. Well, there's a lot of other things that has coincided with the rise of mental health challenges. But unfortunately, these are not brought into the analysis. So very often, it's like a cherry-picked variable. Let's take this digital technology here, and let's coincide it with a mental health issue. I want to just bring up an anecdote. One time when I had a presentation about this topic, one of the members in the audience, she stood up and she said that she too was worried about the effect of technology on her family and digital, especially the screens, using the screens a lot. So she instituted a screen time rule that at a certain point each evening, the family were to drop their phones in a bucket, not to claim it until the next day. Well, one that worked well, it was great. They improved their family time, but there was this one night when one of her daughter's friends had tried to reach out. When he wasn't able to make contact that particular night, he tried to kill himself. He needed that friend in that moment, and he tried to kill himself. Now, he did survive. But I think it kind of tells us that if we're going to lay all this blame on the technology, we should definitely not ignore the new opportunities and the new positive connectivity that it offers. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your excellent speech. Now I request from our opposition side, Professor David Smith, for closing remarks and rebuttal. Can you unmute, please?
That button. Oh, I hit the button. Sharif, thank you for your excellent setting up the stage for this debate. And as we see in the comments from the outside, there's many positive things about technology. And as you look at them, there's places where it definitely can be used to our benefit. And as you know, I give speeches all around the world talking about the future of technology and have helped design some of the most technology advanced systems in the world with the work I have done as a professional futurist inside the intelligence community, DoD, and others. And even putting in place a roadmap for the future of the semiconductors, which are some of the keys to our success. But what has technology done to us? And where has it helped us and where has it hurt us? If you look today at the growth of data, the amount of data in the world is doubling every 2 years, and this has been consistent since the start of recorded data. Wow, that's a lot of data. Can we use it? Yes. But even our technology today, even our data science, and even some of our most advanced tools for going through it is ineffective about taking that data, which we can look at as information, but how do we turn it into knowledge? How do we turn it into wisdom? and how do we turn it into action? Technology cannot help us really with the wisdom and the action. So technology is a tool. I agree with what Ann said. My definition that I use of technology is it's the application of knowledge to achieve a result. Digital tools, do they help us get data? Do they help us turn information together? Yes. But to get the wisdom and the action, it takes the human elements there to be successful with it. And we all know that that's an integral part of it. If you go back and look at some of the science fiction programs where the world is run by machines, boy, in most of those, the outcomes are not very good. So does science fiction equal science fact? It's hard to say. But, I believe you'll see that happening more and more. Particularly the fact that the digital tools we have today are, for the most part, not secure. That, for the most part, can be compromised pretty easy. I can tell you, I can take a small program I have on my computer. I can target a Word document, and I can take over your computer in less than 5 minutes with just sending you a Word document to collaborate with me on. Oh, how many times do we get things like that in our work? How many times do we get things like that in society? Because one of the hallmarks of today is group intelligence. Well, we want group intelligence from the humans, and we're using the digital tools to facilitate it, but those digital tools come with their own risk. Are we not going to use the digital tools? No way. We're going to use them because they do have an impact. They're tools. If we don't use tools, we would still be back in the Stone Ages trying to plow our fields with stones. We would have a time where it would take months and months to get a message from North America to Europe, and even more months to get it to Asia. Technology has helped us do things, but technology has come with its own risk. And that's what we have to see. The ability for us to look at some of the other things and begin to really work there. And the harmful effects of digital technology use, I'm going to go back to those again. Because do I use a computer? Yes. What am I doing now? I'm on the computer with you. And we use it all the time. But, some of the potential harmful effects are reduced attention. And we've seen study after study with that. The reason for the linkage between technology and attention problems is still being studied. It might be attributed to repetitive attention shifts and multitasking, which the technology does not have filters in it to help our brain understand that. I can tell you, just talking today, my smartphone has continually gone off with messages and text and other things, which makes it at times hard to focus on what we're doing here with this debate today. And the attention, the impaired emotional and social intelligence. Wow. We knew that was a problem before, but COVID really brought that to the forefront. And particularly as we look at people at the younger age, we're concerned that a young developing brain may be particularly sensitive to chronic exposures to computers, smartphones, tablets. And the American Academy of Pediatrics has actually gone and said that children under 4 should have no more than 2 hours exposure in total during the day. Well, because technology is 24/7, and the connectivity has made us 24/7, what does that do to us? If the American Academy of Pediatrics is saying 2 hours for children, do we need to do something like that with as adults with putting limits on our technology use? Well, again, I'm all for technology, but that causes me to pause and think at it. At the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA, they have actually made studies of uh, people using technology in offices. And they have said that really more than 4 to 5 hours a day, you begin to recognize different changes in the way that people interact, uh, even the way their body interacts. Then you get technology addiction, and you see this happening. We see kids who cannot put their computers down. We see people in the workplace who always have multiple social media screens, the screens for work, the screens for communications. Oh, and they also watch streaming video the same time they're trying to do these other 12 tasks. Can we do that because of the technology? Yes. Is that good for our nation? Is that good for our commercial people? Gee, I don't see how the productivity could be there. And the more we are there, particularly with technology addiction, the social isolation comes up. I'm going to go back to another study that has come out recently. And per-American colleges studied about 2,000 young adults aged 19 to 32. And they found that using social media for 2 or more hours each day doubled the odds for perceived social isolation. Doubled the odds. And that was 2 or more hours. How does that happen in the office? How does that happen at home? You see the scientific side of the adverse impacts on cognitive and brain development. I can quote dozens of studies on that. And for example, the glasses I have on today are blue filter glasses. Why? The excessive screen time of our digital technology impacts our sleep. It has a negative effect on cognition and our behavior there. And all of those things begin to add up together. And the poor sleep quality is associated with brain changes, such as reduced functional connectivity and decreased gray brain matters. We spoke on one of these programs earlier this week. And, you see that. You're seeing increasingly everything's digital, even the lights in our offices here in the parliament. We replaced the old incandescent lights with digital lights that vibrate at different frequencies, digital lights with different colors, and colors affect our ability too. Now, the opposition, we were supposed to take the negative side. And I believe we've put together a pretty compelling case that there's negative consequences of using the digital tools we have at our exposure. We're not advocating abandoning them. We're advocating a hybrid use of them and managing the risk that we have not only to our nation, our institutions of learning, our commercial sector, our government sector. What we're doing is we're advocating that every tool needs to be used in the proper function, and that we recognize the greatest ability we have as a nation. Our greatest ability as a nation is to use the human capital aided by the tools we have. And is digital tools a tool in our toolbox? Yes, but it should not be the only tool. And the opposition takes this position, and not anti-technology, but technology for the right place in the right amount of time, balancing our health and our productivity together to make our nation great again. and particularly with the Prime Minister and the majority party giving such a mixed message on this topic. Constituencies, we should see that there's confusion back on even the use of all that paper in the photocopy machines, where I can digitize it and save the resources of our great nation, and make it where we're prized to be a competitor, a leading competitor on the world stage. So, colleagues, thank you so much for allowing us to debate this important topic. And I think you'll agree with us that technology has its place, but we have to balance this against negative impacts. So thank you, Sharif.
Thank you, Professor David Smith. Before I go to Prime Ministers for today's Parliament, I want to give special thanks to Mr. Paul. He's a famous media person. And today we have debate, and thank you for our mock parliament. We need media person like you who can promote our debate worldwide. So, and we want this kind of parliament and this kind of discussions in the real parliaments. So, Mr. Paul, I will give you a chance. You will join as a debate analyst for today's sessions after our Prime Minister concluding remarks. Professor Fred Philip.
Oh, did you want me to speak now or after?
No, Fred first.
I think, yeah, I had some trouble unmuting, but you can hear me now, yes?
Yes.
All right, let's use our current video cast as an argument for the government side. We have a worldwide audience. You know that I've tied the question of productivity to the question of mission. And there's another comment popping up from Virginia, our audience member from Brazil. Presumably her personal educational mission and strategy involves gaining access to the ideas of thoughtful people around the world beyond the ideas that her local professors expose her to. And these video casts are an ideal vehicle for that. And the filter that David Smith mentioned, that's Sharif. Sharif is the filter. It ensures that thoughtful people appear on the panel. All right, now the Honorable Opposition mentioned that the technology is a mirror to who we are. I'll take issue with that a little bit because here in New Mexico, we have a great number of traditional societies in the Pueblo, the Navajo Nation, and so on. They know perfectly well who they are. It's only since the recent as in the last 100 years, imposition of taxes on these people that they need money to maintain who they are, their traditions. Okay. Today in the morning, I got an email from the Native American Cultural Center informing me of a new exhibit and sale of the pottery art and the coral jewelry of an incoming Native artist. And they are adapting to the digital world in order to maintain their own sense of who they are. And they're doing that very skillfully. All right. So before I became prime minister, I was an academic, as you know, and our tradition at the university, which is supposed to maintain and develop the whole person, our tradition when we met with a student was walk and talk, right? Walk across the campus as we talk to the student, a very healthy way of interaction. But now we can't talk to a student unless there's a screen in front of us. So I do have, just as the technology has helped the tradition of the American Indian communities, I look forward to technology that will perhaps let us walk and talk with an iPad that where the screen's still visible in the bright sunlight that we have here in New Mexico. Right now, it's not possible, but I'm hopeful that the technology will deliver that to us. All right, I'm guilty of what we call technology colonization, that when a technology does a new thing, we continue to call it by the old name. And I still call those machines photocopiers, although 9 out of 10 times that I use a photocopier, it's for digital scanning, so that we can get closer to the paperless office that my friend David advocates. If we try to offload our own human faults onto the machine, we're simply replaying the classic story of the scapegoat, and now we're using an AI instead of a goat to outsource our sins. So it's a good reminder, I suppose, because in New Mexico there are a lot of goats, but also a lot of computers. So we'll see what happens there. We have exposure to computers, and children have too much. I don't think the opposition should give the fault totally to computers, because we've seen recently and tragically what happens when the children have too much exposure to guns, which are not digital technologies. Now, I readily concede that it's the combination of computers and guns that can result in these tragic outcomes. That an alienated youngster gets pulled into social media that have conspiratorial and hateful content, and then they also have access to a gun, and it's terrible. But we cannot put the blame totally on the digital technologies, because the guns are not digital. So I'd like to conclude by just reinforcing the idea that different persons and different constituencies have different missions and strategies. And productivity has to be judged in the context of that individual strategy or that organization's strategy. So one person's strategy for their leisure might be to be completely passive, turn on the TV and watch whatever's on there. Another person's leisure strategy might be to fiddle with the buttons until the end of time and get satisfaction that way. And as a prime minister representing many constituencies, we have to respect these divergent motivations and missions from all of our citizens and all of our organizations in the country, and find ways to respectfully accommodate all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Fred Philip, for your concluding remarks. Now I request Mr. Paul.
Okay, hi, from New York. But I guess they call this an adobo from Gallup, New Mexico. So since I'm a guy who's been in the communications business for, I guess, since my 50th anniversary, CBS and PBS and our own Good News broadcast, I think always we're talking technology, these kinds of devices, cell phones and computers that we're all on here at the same time. What give us access to is the great opportunity to communicate more so worldwide. But communications always will boil down, the medium is the message, will always boil down to the fact of who's communicating and what is somebody saying, right? And if they're talking about peace and love and harmony and in a meaningful way, then we're all in a good way, in a good shape. Communications can be used beautifully or as I guess David Smith said, he could easily get into my Word document. Maybe you can actually do my Word document for me. And so I got a feeling you could do a better job than me. So I think, it's really, we live in a wonderful world with wonderful people. We have our hiccups and we have our problems and so on and so forth. We just did a major event in Times Square for Earth Day, and we called it Water and Peace and the Ukrainian Interfaith Benefit. And we showed a movie. I did the 20th anniversary of Woodstock. And we showed our movie Woodstock Forever, Peace, Love, and Hope. But I think in this context of talking about technology, once again, it always will depend on who has to say and what they have to say, if that just made any sense. And so that's really what we want to share. New York and here in America could drive you kind of nutsy. I mean, we have lots of people. We have probably every ethnicity, every color, race, creed here in the city, and lots of everything. And lots of inputs. I can walk to the subway and I've probably seen 500 people and been bombarded by lots of cars and noise and so on. So I guess you got to kind of get to your own oneness and share the goodness that's within all of us. So that's my Sharif. Thank you for letting me say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. You are a great man. You always support World Talent Economy Forum, and we have a good news for you. World Talent Economy Forum next year, 27 March to 29 March, we will organize a big conference in India because our target is developing nations. Definitely, Professor Talib, we want to visit your country, Jordan. Yes, we want to visit your village and your people, and we want to organize a summit in your country. Professor Mamu, also, I want to visit with our team in Africa, South Africa. So we already invite almost 25,000 scientists from around the world. Yes, we are getting many support from Indian communities, and we want you as a partner. We want everyone our partners, and as you are from media is a very good important for us. BBC also part of our team. They are also supporting our projects and they
Yes.
are
Welcome.
promoting our things.
We'll welcome you.
Yes.
Can I hear?
Yes. Professor Paul, I want your TV channels. They can be our
Wow.
partner for our Nikola Tesla Technology Conference.
Okay.
So,
Done.
yes, thank you. Professor Mamu, what you want to discuss for today's session, and you can add something as a debate analyst. Professor Mamu. Professor Mamu, can you hear me? Professor Mamu. I think he cannot hear. Professor Mamumuchi, can you hear me?
I don't think.
Yes.
Yes. Professor Mam, yes.
No. Today's session. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I'm sorry, I think he has internet problem. He's very good professor and always helpful for World Talent Economy Forum. Dr. Talib, what you want to add? What you see from today's debate? And you are real-time politicians, so what is your advice for young politicians?
I think what Anne and Paul said is very, very important. Also, what our Prime Minister Fred said is very important. That is that we need to trust our technology. 10,000 years ago, we invented the fire. Fire was a new technology. It had its risk, of course, David. Everything has its risk. We have seen the risks of fire. It took 10,000 years to create fire departments in the country. But we do it. We cannot not trust the technology. We have to trust the technology. Technology has to move forward.
Sorry,
We can't
sorry.
just.
The network is not.
Okay.
Sorry.
Can you hear?
Can you
Can
hear?
you hear?
Yes,
Can you
I
hear
can
us?
hear you, but it breaks up.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Professor
Sorry.
Talib, you finish. Then I want to give chance Professor Mamu. Professor Talib,
Okay.
yes.
Professor
Sorry,
Mamu
sorry.
can.
Okay.
Yes, Professor Mamu.
Sorry. I don't
Go ahead.
want to say not today. The only thing is, I needed to know your book project. We're working on Africa Talent Hub and
Okay. Thank you.
on innovation, and just give me the deadline. So I want to make sure that I meet it without fail. I don't want to fail you. I want to
Thank you.
contribute a very nice chapter. Yeah,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
is that okay?
Actually,
Can this be a
yeah,
contribution from
sure.
us today? The
Sure.
network is not good for me. I don't know why. Yeah,
Yes,
it
I
keeps breaking.
understand.
Yeah.
Yes. Like
Thank you.
before
Yes.
15th of this month, you just have to submit your proposal for your chapter and we will accept it. Thank you, Professor
Okay.
Mamu.
I
Thank you.
will.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Uh,
Yes,
Professor,
on the 14th of this month,
Yes,
it's my
June.
birthday, and Donald Trump is also born on the same day I was born.
Good for you. Good for you. Not for him. Good for you.
So to
They
make
spoke
you
a
all
lot
laugh.
about him last night.
So celebrate my birthday with Donald Trump.
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Professor Talib,
Thank you.
you want
Thank
to?
you very
Thank
much.
you.
Nice to see all of you. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor
I
Mamu.
don't know, the network keeps breaking. I don't know why.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry about that. Yeah.
No, what I
I
wanted to
don't know.
say is we have to trust with technology.
I use a
Can't
router.
approach technology with skepticism and fear of risks because that would not get us anywhere. The human being has proven that they can correct all the mistakes of the future. And technology today is simply just more advanced, and it's in the iPhones, smartphones, smart televisions. These are all gadgets that I would not want to separate myself from. I don't want to separate myself from. I don't see why children should not be banned from using their technological tools. I don't see the logic behind it. I think we should encourage it. We should encourage the people to use technology nowadays. As Paul said, and also echoed that. Paul said that technology is about communication nowadays. So it's important to see the bigger picture. The bigger picture says that if I have an idea, I can spread it all over the world nowadays. It's a big advancement. Technology is the thing that brings all the nation and the people together. Today's technology, of course. As I said, technology is not different from that of the past. What we have today is simply technological, digital tools, we call them. The digital tools are tools, just like any other tools. I hope that does not distract us from embracing technology and give it the full of our confidence and support. I thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Talib. Madam Annie, you want to add anything for today's session?
Can't hear you, Annie. We can't hear you.
You can. Okay.
Now we can hear you.
You can hear me now. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something that is a little bit out of sync, I think. I totally agree. And I loved the analogy with the fire and that it took some time before we developed the fire departments. Very often the technology comes first and the solutions comes after. It would be nice to not have to kind of troubleshoot our ways to a perfect solution, and we probably will never have a perfect solution. But I think it's very important that we embrace it head on and take it from what it is, and perhaps think of it as something that we can fine tune and move in different directions so that it solves the problems that we do want to solve and not just create more. I think very often, like what we blame on technology is actually business incentives. So we hear very often, for example, it was mentioned today that we spend a lot of time on our screens. Well, there are business incentives to do that. There are business incentives to polarize us. There are business incentives to try to put us into these black holes where we drift apart in sort of like this digital universe. But that is because there's this idea that if you can make people more and more extreme, you can target a product towards them. At some point, it will reach a level of entropy, and that's not going to be possible anymore. And you will have to sort of bring in more diversity in that system. So, what very often when we're looking at what the technology is currently being applied to and how it's optimized in the
You're
current
losing.
moment, what we need to do is look at who are the people who are creating those optimizations, and how would that be different if it was a different interest group that did that? If there are people with other incentives and other ideas about what society should look like.
Thank you. Thank you. This is excellent debate, especially I believe for our audience. They can learn different views for technologies and everything. But if you ask me, I'm not biased, but I'm a big fan of technology because today's sessions, Professor Mamu from Africa, our other professor from USA, Dr. Talib from Jordan, and from Malaysia. That is the beautiful things of technology. And beside that, World Talent Economy Forums, we are actually taking more action for developing world. You know that COVID-19 situations, many people lose their job. So especially we are trying to help youth communities. And yes, technology actually help. In Malaysia, you know that Malaysian business heavily involved with construction and plantation. Uh, so Malaysian government, they are heavily utilizing drone, and yes, they need 100,000 drone pilot now. One of the corporations, they grow very fast in between last 2 3 years. Aerodyne, one of the fastest growing drone companies, and yes, only 2,000 drone pilot they have. They need more 98,000 drone pilot in Malaysia. So that is the way actually technology contributing for human progressions, and World Talent Economy Forum actually helping. We provide training from our institutions. We are helping governments for cyber security, for artificial intelligence, for drone pilots. Uh, Singapore is a different story. Singapore wants more humanistic approach. So we are helping them to grow uh, futuristic leaders in Singapore. Indonesia also different. We are also working with India, Bangladesh, Pakistan. Uh, India, we are launching our conference next year, March. Beside that, it's not only conference, we are engaging with 30,000 people in India with 15 villages. And we are developing startup village in India. Also, in Bangladesh, we are working with Energy Ministry, and they have 55,000 employee, and we will provide training to them. And this month, 24 June, actually, Central Bank of Bangladesh and Central Bank of Malaysia actually collaborating. We are organizing this conference. So this is the way actually we are taking action for developing world. We are big fan of developing world. I'm from developing world, so I am grateful how I get support from developed world. Many speakers like today's session, they always join, they contribute, and what is happening through this dialogue, through this debate, through this open discussion, the grassroots level people, they getting inspirations. We make our content 100% free. Many school, college, university, institutions right now, they are utilizing our content for their developments. So that is the way actually we are changing developing world. So hopefully if we get more support, we can contribute more. uh, but fact is that more than 3 billion people, they are in grassroots, they are in remote area. So 40% people around the world, uh, they do not have enough like healthcare, technological support, home, food, safety, and security. So that's why I request everyone, we need to work hard, we need to collaborate together, and we need to support each other. That's why we build up this talent economy, and hopefully we can bring some excellent talent for solving global problem from grassroots level. Thank you, Professor Fred Philip, Professor David Smith, Madam Annie, Mr. Paul, Professor Mamu, and Dr. Talib Raphael for your continuous support for World Talent Economy Forum. And I request all of our audience, please share our content with your government agencies, with your corporations, and with your academy. Thank you. Bye-bye and take care.